All right, back for more. It is our NBA panel. DraftKings contributor Kenny Ducey and Rotowire's Nick Whalen. It's NBA high or low. So are the following spreads, totals, or props, like too high or too low on tonight's playoff slate. So like too short or too long. Brooklyn favored by, it looks like it's 9 now on the DK Sportsbook. Brooklyn favored by 9 over Boston, game 2. That too high or too low, Kenny?
I think that this number is too low. I think so. Now, here's the thing. I thought Boston was going to be competitive in this series. I thought that they might steal game 1. I thought that they might, maybe win one of the first 3 games. And then, once the Nets started to figure them out, they would just kind of run them off the court. Well, that whole feel out period was not like 2 games. It was like 2 quarters. And the Nets just completely steamrolled the Celtics from there. So I do think that this number is a little bit too low. I think the Nets will probably win this game by like 12 to 15 points. The biggest thing here, and I shouted it from the mountaintops, I said the Nets can't play defense. They're going to stink in the postseason. Well, their defensive rating was 100 in their first game against the Boston Celtics, and that is the 3rd best defensive rating so far in the postseason. So I think as long as this defense continues to play like this, it's going to be pretty fruitful to bet on the Nets. 9.5. I could see this going up to like 13 points by game 3.
Yeah, and Tatum didn't make a single bucket and a single field goal in the second half. It's also kind of crazy too, Nick, when you think about it. It was just the 9th game since Harden was acquired in that blockbuster trade that Harden and Kyrie and KD were on the floor together. So it really wasn't a shocker to me. It took them a couple quarters to warm up.
No, me neither. And I'm surprised that this has moved from 9.5 to 9. I'm with Kenny. I think it should be going in the other direction, if anything. I think game 1, I definitely didn't think the Celtics were going to steal it by any means, but I felt like the first quarter, especially in the first half, went about as well as Boston could have asked for. I mean, they held Brooklyn to 16 points in the first quarter. They hit a ton of threes early on. Boston led that game by 6 at the half. And then it felt like Brooklyn said, okay, we'll actually start trying now. And they were able to coast their way, to a double-digit win. So I think we get a Nets team that's a little more ready this time around. I don't think they're going to score 16 points in the first quarter. Again, I think they want to come out and send a message. And Jason Tatum played really well in that first half. But, like you said, he really had no field goals in the second. I think I would take the over on one Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant fight at some point in the series. I think KD was able to get under Jason Tatum's skin. And it was just abundantly clear that especially when Kemba Walker doesn't have it, and he certainly did not have it in game 1, with Jaylen Brown out, I mean, if it's just the Jason Tatum show, it becomes pretty easy to defend, especially when you can throw a 7-footer with a long wingspan like Kevin Durant on that guy. Boston just doesn't have a lot of other options. Like Evan Fournier can't be your number 2 guy in a playoff game against the Brooklyn Nets. So I think this one actually probably ends up in a blowout. I think game 1, based on how that first half went, was probably Boston's best chance to steal one. And I think the Nets have woken up and are probably going to steamroll these next 3. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up looking a little bit like last night's Heat-Bucks game.
All right, guys, need to speed it up a little bit. Lakers-Suns game total was 208.5 this morning. It's now 210.5 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Too high or too low, Nick?
I have over on 208.5. I think about it a little more at the new number, but still probably over. I know game 1 didn't break 200. But this feels like maybe a little bit of an over adjustment. Neither team shot the ball well, especially the Lakers. I mean, their role players were horrendous in that game. So I think by virtue of both teams just shooting a little bit closer to their average, this one pushes over.
Kenny, what do you want to do here? Too high, too low?
Yeah, I agree with Nick. I would take the over here. I think this is a little bit too low. The shooting is going to come back to normal. And also, I mean, while I am a little bit concerned about that Lakers offense, the defense there was not great. They've not been great down the stretch. They were not great in that game. And I also know that the Suns during the season had been known to push the pace a little bit in close games. I think this game's going to be close. I think the Suns can even be trailing in this game. And I would not be surprised to see them revert back to their up-tempo ways that we kind of saw them veer into in the middle of the season and kind of a shock. So I do think that the pace could be a little bit higher. I think this goes over.
Kenny, Clippers favored by, it was originally 6 this morning over the Mavericks, now 7 on the DK Sportsbook. Too high or too low?
I think that it's too low still. I think that the Clippers end up running up on the Mavericks. Look, I think that you could say all the nice things in the world that you want about Luka Doncic. He's a great player, but I do think that the rest of this team just lacks a punch on the glass, and they lack a punch on the defensive end more importantly. And the fact that they don't really run at a very fast pace here, I think that puts them at a huge disadvantage. There's going to be few chances to really create a bunch of offense against this Clippers team. And again, the Clippers didn't want to win a single game in the month of May, I'm convinced. And all of a sudden now they are like back to normal. We've seen it with the Lakers, we've seen it with the Nets, and now with the Clippers, these teams that just didn't try for 2 weeks, now just all of a sudden they're good again. I didn't want to believe that it was going to happen, but I am quickly admitting that it is happening, that teams can just snap and flip on a switch, and then there they go. So I think that the Clippers are back. I think that the Clippers roll over the Mavericks. They're one of the best teams in basketball.
Nick, too high or too low?
I think it's about right. I would actually take Dallas to cover. I'll take the Clippers to win this game, but I think Luka is going to do a good job of slowing things down, controlling the pace, and keeping the Mavs in this game. But I think the Clippers bounce back overall. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson, Serge Ibaka combined to go 1 of 17 from 3 in game 1. I don't think that's happening again. I think better shooting is really going to open things up for the Clippers. But like I said, I think the Mavs have a good chance to keep this close, especially if Maxi Kleber plays in this game. He's questionable, sore Achilles. That's been bothering him for the last couple of weeks. Rick Carlisle, said that, Kleber barely practiced yesterday. So it does seem like something that's a real concern. If he doesn't go, that's a pretty big blow for Dallas on the defensive end, especially.
Okay, Nick, LeBron James, 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists total. I remember you said earlier, you're not picking up what LeBron's been putting down lately. So you just want to tell me why this is too high?
Look, I have to go over here. I know I said that, but this number is just lower than I thought it would be, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, he's averaging 45 points, rebounds, assists for his playoff career. So, while I didn't love what I saw from LeBron in game 1, the fact that he was still able to get to 10 assists, despite, KCP blowing every single wide open 3 that LeBron set up for him, says a lot. I don't like LeBron to come out and go for like 38 points in this game and just dominate like we've seen him do in the past. I think he's still going to have to feel it out as a scorer, but he's always rebounded well in the playoffs. He turns it up, another like 50% just in terms of effort on the glass in the postseason. So I think he can get to 10, 12 assists, 8 to 10 rebounds. And then if he can just get to 25 to 27 points, that's probably enough to push him over. So I'm not super high on LeBron. I'm more so just, low on this number, I guess.
All right, yeah, minus 125 on the over there. Kenny, what do you think? Is this actually too short?
It's way too short. And when you look back since 2018, Emerson, I did some looking. There are only 2 times where you can point to a game 2 where LeBron didn't increase his scoring output over game 1. One of them was he had a 51-point game. So obviously he's not going to go more than 51 points. And the other one was a game where he played just 26 minutes in the first round of the postseason last year against the Blazers when he was, obviously 26 minutes. You're not going to improve over 23 points. I think that history tells us that LeBron's going to have a better scoring output here. I would not be surprised to see him hit 30, 32 points. And if he does that, of course he's going to get, 9 or 10 rebounds and assists, considering the fact that this battle on the glass has been, the Suns, they are good at rebounding, but they're not the best at rebounding. And LeBron certainly can make a dent there. I think that he could have 35 points, and this is an easy cash.